This week's Coach of the Week, sponsored by Lasso Works Cedar, goes to third grade boys Wolverines coach Cliff Lusk. Not only is Cliff the head coach of the Wolverines, but he also assists a kindergarten team and a fourth grade boys team. Cliff has 3 different practice nights, and he gives his energy and his all to all 3 teams. He's a great coach, he's an encourager, he's a strategizer, and he's an all-around good guy. So Cliff, way to go. You are this week's Lasso Works Cedar Coach of the Week.
This week's Player of the Week is third grade boys Gators, Lincoln Daly. Lincoln was nominated by his coach, and his coach said this about him: he always has a smile on his face no matter how the game is going, and he loves going out there and giving it his all. He has shown tremendous growth this season and displayed amazing sportsmanship. He always listens in devotion and participates. He's eager to learn, and he always plays the game with passion, just does a great job. And the best thing that his coach had to say about him is that Lincoln is a great leader on and off the court. What a tremendous example for all of our people to follow. Lincoln, great job. You're our Player of the Week.
All right, welcome back to Winning with the Home Team. I think this is episode number 7, perhaps.
Or 17.
Sure.
I'll lose track.
It feels like it. But yeah, I think that we've done a pretty good job from the episodes talking about winning with the family and making sure that, your family is the most important aspect. And we do that in the context of youth sports.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked a lot about specifically club sports,
Mm-hmm.
select sports. And we've held the tension pretty good. I don't know that we've given a black and white answer in regards to, what our thoughts are specifically, because it all comes down to, what you and your family decide is important in regards to faith and keeping faith first. But today we have a guy who is running a select baseball program and has been doing so for 27 years. So, Mr. Shane Davenport, thank you for coming on.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yep. So tell me about your baseball experience. Like, your life has been baseball.
I did it since I was 4. Grew up in a private school until 9th grade, and then went to Workman for the first time ever in a public school, and thought, I don't know any of these words.
Yeah.
So it was my first taste of not being as sheltered as we grew up.
Yeah.
Then went to Martin High School, played basketball for 2 years, and then decided, and baseball, decided baseball was probably going to be my avenue.
Yeah.
If I had a chance to do anything.
Yeah.
We're talking about, I graduated at Martin in 1990.
Uh-huh.
So sports has changed a lot.
Sure.
We got seen in high school. I was fortunate enough to have the number 1 overall pick in the Major League Baseball draft graduate with me at Martin.
Wow.
So we always had people at the game.
Yeah.
My dad, we played ping pong. So I've done sports, and then I played at Martin. I had a couple of scholarships after my senior year. Didn't do very good on my testing scores.
Mm-hmm.
So back then, if you had to get a certain number, and I think you still do on your SAT to take that scholarship. So I had signed to play at UTA.
Uh-huh.
Didn't do so good. So I only had one other option. It was go to junior college in Dallas. That was the only 2 offers I had.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the best decision I've ever made. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that I made that decision. It was kind of made that way because I didn't do my job in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
I got to play for 2 years in an environment that I got to learn instead of sitting the bench maybe for 2 years at UTA.
Yeah.
So I became better.
Uh-huh.
Thought I was really good. And my sophomore year, my coach sat me on the bench for the first 2 weeks of the season. Said, you're not going to play to become a better teammate. You're not as good as you think you are. And I didn't know how to handle that because I don't mind confrontation. I actually like it.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll just sit over here. That's fine. I get my school paid for. Something changed, and there wasn't some specific, just started to change. I got tired of sitting over there. I had never sat before.
Uh-huh.
So I started rooting guys on, not realizing what I was doing, just started standing up at the front and,
Yeah.
high-fiving as they came in. And all of a sudden he said, hey, we were at a place called McLennan right outside of Waco, really big junior college baseball program. And it was the last inning. He said, hey, Davenport, you get to hit. And I was like, oh, cool. My dad was there. He came to every game. Mom did when she could. I had a 14 pitch at bat. Couldn't get my timing because I hadn't played in 2 weeks.
Sure.
It's different.
Yeah.
And finally just something clicked, and I hit a really far home run and never sat again. Ended up having the best year I'd ever had in my life. I put up really big numbers and had 25 scholarships
Wow.
after that.
Yeah.
Played another 2. I decided to go to UTA again because I wanted my parents to come.
Yeah.
And it's different now. I do the recruiting.
Yeah.
I didn't know where to go.
Right.
I was scared to go away. Didn't know what that would be like.
Right.
And we had a really good family life.
Yeah.
So I wanted them to get to come. My grandma lived right down the road from UTA's baseball field, right by Pantego School.
Yeah.
She came to every home game.
Yeah.
And so it was just a blessing to be able to do that and stay home. I lived at home the first year.
Yeah.
So my junior year, I lived at home. My senior year, actually, I did both years.
Yeah.
It was just a really cool environment for me.
Right.
And then got drafted in 1994, played 5 years in minor leagues, started doing lessons because I didn't know you could do that. I knew that that's what I was supposed to do
Yeah.
in 1997.
Okay.
And I'll keep going, but
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
tell
go
me
ahead.
where you want to.
Yeah, up until, you started, your club baseball
Okay.
program.
So I get drafted, I go play, I start doing lessons. Didn't know you could do that. First lesson, I went home and I said, I was single.
Yeah.
I was like, that's what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
I've never felt that way. I had one more year to play, and I called him and said, I'm not coming back. I found what I'm supposed to do.
Wow.
Did 20 years of that and started doing, and I was starting a program. There was a guy named Nick Heights who started the program. And I came on board to just do lessons where he was his indoor facility. And just over time, you get to know people. And he's like, I'm way older than anybody there. So he was like, hey, he's kind of been through some things. Maybe he can help me run this. And so we started doing it together for a long time.
Right.
Now I do it by myself for, he runs tournaments.
Yeah.
So it's just been a passion, if you will, just to be around kids
Yeah.
and help develop.
You mentioned some of the stumbling blocks along the way, whether it be the testing or whatever. What's some advice you would give kids at that age going into their high school years now that you wish you could have gone back and given yourself?
And I do, right, with the recruiting.
Yeah.
There's 2 questions I get asked by college coaches every time, the very first 2. What's his character? What is his test scores?
Right.
I'm sorry, could you say that again? What was the first thing?
What's his character? And what's his test scores?
Yeah.
And with that, they'll say, what's he like in the classroom?
Yeah.
I have to be up front and say, man, I don't know what they're like in the classroom.
Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah.
I don't go to their classes.
Yeah.
But I know what kind of person he is when I stand and talk to him. I know what kind of player he is based on the way he presents himself, on what time he gets there,
Yeah.
and how he plays the baseball game. When we do practice, does he show up and does he get after it? Or does he show up and just go through the motion?
Right.
That tells me who you are. Because the game is hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you're showing up for practice on time or, dressed out the way we ask you to do, and you get after it in practice, I know who you are.
Yeah.
So I would just tell them to focus more on making sure that you understand how to take these tests. Start early.
Yeah.
Most of our guys don't take the test till their senior year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you're at a
Why not take it
disadvantage.
your freshman
Yeah.
year just to see what it's like.
Exactly.
Get an idea of what is that pressure?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's 4 hours of sitting in a room taking a test like?
Right.
Take it again, because most schools now, a lot of schools now will take a super score.
Right.
So they'll take the best reading from one year and the best math from another, and they'll just put those together for a
Right.
certain score.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's unique that the first thing that coaches ask you is about their character. And as we talk about winning with the home team, Shane, I know your 3 kids, character is developed, yes, through sports, but if there's not someone facilitating, those debriefing of games like the parents, character can only go so far. Does that make sense? Like, how you're raised, largely determines your character, right, and your experiences. So, I know that you and Sally have 3 kids, Faith, TJ, and Bella. How old are they?
Faith is 16, and Bella and TJ are twins, and they're 12.
Yeah. How have you and Sally, once you know that coaches care about character, and I'm sure that you and Sally do too, what are some of the what are some of the non-negotiables when you talk about character with your kids?
So just to kind of give you an insight on all this, I've been watching these things. It's been real humbling. It's been hard for me to watch and listen to, and then think about the things that we do as a family, and see. I've noticed that I don't do the things that I would ask other people to do. So it's been extremely hard to sit at home and think, man, how are you going to go and talk about passion when I do have it? If you come watch a practice, I run our 14U practices from February to June, September and October, and then I handle the high school always, but they only play in June and July. So I expect guys to show up and give me everything they got.
Yeah.
It's non-negotiable. The games are hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're going to make mistakes.
Right.
But let's learn how to react to those mistakes in a time where you don't have a base runner.
Yeah.
In a time that you don't have everybody watching you.
Yeah.
Right.
Where you can have some freedom to make those mistakes and understand it is okay. But it's how you adjust and how you handle that at that time that's non-negotiable for me.
Yeah.
So I tell guys a lot in practice, if you don't show up on time, you don't give me all you got, find somewhere else to play. This ain't the place.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I see myself not doing that at home.
Yeah.
I expect things to be a certain way. I'm extremely anal about what I want and how I want it done. You turn on a light, turn it off when you leave. But they don't. And I struggle.
Yeah.
So you ask that question, and I find myself sad to, I'm not going to try to go there because I'm kind of an emotional guy anyway, but how much of a failure I've been as a father watching y'all's podcast.
But Shane, you're not the only one, because we've talked about time and time again, how our failures is what has brought us to this place, because we know that the failures are all too common to make, right? Because we're so passionate about, I think I mentioned 2 podcasts ago, like I have an idea of what I want Taya to do. I want her to play, soccer to get her footwork, and then basketball and then volleyball. And so, I appreciate your humbleness, but just know without a shadow of a doubt, you're not the only one in the room, that could do better, if you will, right? And it's because of God's grace that we're sitting here, helping families, not try harder, but, just think about some of these things. That's the whole purpose of this podcast, is if we can get families just to think about what's directly in front of their face, but is at the back of their mind.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Sure.
So I appreciate your honesty, but just know that you're not the only one, and you hopefully won't be the last one, because this is the purpose of the podcast.
And let me throw this down, by the way, because you mentioned character. That's character.
Exactly.
Being able to say that.
100%.
Because I'm the same way. And listen, as men, I'll say this. I never missed a call out when I got called out at work. When I'm playing, I was in the weight room when it opened. I ran the extra sprints, but then I compare that to sometimes how I am with my family. And I'm the same as you. Like, man, I'm failing. Like I'm Johnny on the spot when all this stuff happens that I feel like I want to be doing, that there's something I'm going to gain from it. But yet when it comes to raising my kids, or even in my marriage, and there's times when I feel like the biggest failure in the world. And I think it takes us to stop and recognize it and say, okay, I need to be better at this. I think that's the character.
Yeah.
I don't think it is doing it right from 0 to 60. I think it's recognizing that, man, we need to be better, because we're great in this arena, but in this arena we're dropping the ball.
Yes.
So
yeah, for sure. As a manager of a program, what are 2 or 3 words of advice you would give to parents in regards to, getting into select ball?
To be real honest, and this might be counterintuitive because it's what I do for a living.
Yeah.
So my only job. But when I sit down with a lot of parents, from probably 10 to 18.
Mm-hmm.
I try to tell people all the time, wait till they're 13 or 14.
I'm sorry.
Maybe
Could you
even
say
high
that
school.
again? I'm sorry. What was that? What age?
Wait till they're 13 or 14.
Yeah.
Partly because you do need to be in a pro, in my opinion, because the recruiting is so different. When I played, you got seen in high school. They don't go to high school games anymore.
Right.
They'll send somebody once in a while, but they're coaching their teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they've got to go. And it's easier to go to a tournament that's got,
Sure.
listen, we go to a tournament in Georgia every year, and there's 397 teams. Last year was 404 teams at 17 years old.
Yeah.
Going into senior year.
Yeah.
They'd rather go watch a tournament that's got that many teams
Yeah.
than to go watch one guy at high school.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
I feel like you at some point need to get in if that's your passion. If you're wanting to play that sport
Yeah.
or try to get a scholarship,
Right.
I think it's important to get in once you get 13 or 14 just to see where do I need to improve before it gets to a point where it's like might be that window of being too late.
Yeah.
Why not any earlier? Why not the window? Why the window of 13?
Well, because it just
14?
doesn't matter.
Could you say that again? I'm sorry. What?
It just doesn't matter.
Why doesn't it matter?
Well, number one, I've never been asked by a college coach, how many tournaments has Johnny won at 12?
Yeah.
And he's not the same player, not the same kid.
That's
not the
such a
same
good
family.
point. Yeah. Such
so
a good
can
point.
I play devil's advocate?
Sure.
Because I don't know. You know, you say that it doesn't matter, but yet experience and touches with the ball seem to do matter. So where does the tension lie in that?
With the being with those kind of people,
Yeah.
is that at that
Yeah.
at an earlier age?
Uh-huh.
Well, the development will come, and it's usually a little bit later anyway. Now, it doesn't
That's
hurt.
key.
There's some kids that are just more ready for certain things.
Yeah.
I believe I heard you on one of the podcasts talking about a family that had a 7 or 8 year old that. Listen, we play a lot. Our high school guys play 35 games in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
That's not a ton, but they just got done playing February to May.
Right.
also.
Sure.
And the last 3 years, my 17 or going into senior year team, I've had 8 guys win state. So they've
Yeah.
played through July or June
Yeah.
9th.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they literally come to the out of town trip the next weekend. They don't have a break.
Yeah.
They don't play as much as there's some that may, but even our 14 and unders will play 10 tournaments into February till June 2nd or second week of June.
Yeah.
If you win, you're going to play more than if you're,
Right.
playing one game on Sunday.
Right. Right.
So you're talking about 30. It's too much. There's no reason there's no reason to play that much at 12,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe even 14.
Yeah. And this is coming from someone who does this for a living.
Yes, but
Yeah.
So, but you can play. It's but once again, I guess we can get into it's just what's the reason?
Yeah.
You're not going to miss anything if you don't show up, let's say, to our program until you're 14 or 15.
Yeah.
You're not going to miss
You're
anything.
not missing anything. Now, what does happen is when you're in the program, I get to watch guys develop.
Yeah.
And I get to put them on teams that I feel like they've earned the right to be on.
Yeah.
Each year, where if your first year, I don't know exactly
Sure.
who you really are.
Yeah.
We just go based on a tryout.
Right.
Well, that's not very much.
Yeah.
So that's the only aspect that I find that's beneficial.
Yeah.
Now it does help, the better guys get better quicker because they're playing against better players typically.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's the same game.
Right.
It's the same bat. It's the same base.
Yeah.
There's no substitute for games, but it doesn't have to be this
So
aspect.
many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, we've talked about it before that, it's different than when we grew up, when you played football in football season, baseball in baseball season, basketball. And I think now you see so many parents that feel like, well, I got to get my kid in at age 5, and play as much as possible because that's what's going to make them good enough when they get seen at, 14 or 15.
Yeah. It's just the fear of missing out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
They
just
see
not
their
true.
neighbors are doing it. Well, we better get in. We're going
Right.
to miss.
Yeah.
Right.
Keeping up with the Joneses. Yeah.
And it's just
For
not.
sure.
It's not true.
So you mentioned character earlier, and I want to go back to that because for someone with your experience, if you've got a kid with just tremendous talent and a kid with tremendous character, what do you choose?
Well, are their talents close?
Not, yeah. Let's say they're fairly close.
Well, then you
Then
choose
you choose the character over the
and
talent.
it'll happen every time.
Right, right, and that's what you're seeing, not just with you, but even as they progress
Right.
beyond you, right?
As long as their abilities are similar,
sure,
right? Like if
yeah.
it's way off, the guy with the
With the
attitude
talents,
problem with the talent's going to get it over. It's just
Right.
like pitchers. If you can throw 95,
Mhm.
it doesn't matter if you throw a strike right now.
right,
They think they'll teach you to throw a strike.
right,
Yeah.
It's hard to teach somebody to throw 95.
right, yeah.
So it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just a quick story. 8 years ago, I had 2 players on my team. One was going to be offered 85% at University of Miami. One was going to get 85% at University of Texas. After the 4th tournament, the coaches came up and said, hey, we're going to give them 40%, both of them. And I said, why are we dropping it so much? I'm tired of watching him jog to his position. Nothing about the game. He said, that tells me who he is. He can't show up on my campus and think he can jog from the dugout to his position, and there's not somebody in the dugout that's willing to sprint.
Right.
That tells me who he is.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I was like, man, I wish everybody was sitting in the stands.
Yeah,
Because they wouldn't believe me just telling
Yeah.
the story.
Yeah.
right.
But if they heard them, they'd be like, oh, there'd be some people running to that position.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So it's the little
Yeah.
things.
Right.
Yeah.
And to me, it starts at home, and then it shows up wherever you go.
Sure. Yeah. You mentioned that these guys are grown men at this point, right? And so how much interaction do you have with their parents? I know you said you sit down with parents, but
I do a lot with the parents.
okay.
Okay. Now, I have some directors that I pay to run the 16s and the 15s. One of them is really good at thinking it needs to be the kids, and that's who he deals with.
Yeah.
When he has information, he texts them. Now, he sends an email once a week so the parents can see of what we're going to be doing.
Yeah.
But he deals with the kids
Mm-hmm.
and tells them, you need to make sure your parents know. You learn how to talk.
Right.
At our parent meeting, I tell everybody that if you have a problem with playing time, anything else, if you call me, the first question I'm going to ask is, has your son talked to his coach?
Yeah.
They need to learn how to be able to communicate.
Right. Right.
And our coaches are awesome. It's not like when I was playing in high school or college and the coach said, hey, we've got an open door policy.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah,
open
it's
door.
not the same.
It is, but you're going to wish you hadn't asked that question.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you're like,
Right.
it's really
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
It really
And Rhonda
is.
Dunn said that exact
Yeah.
same thing
Yeah.
in here. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's important that they learn how to, especially today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired of watching people text. I like to text. It's quick. It's easy.
Yeah.
And you have something that you can go back to.
Right.
But I like this.
Yeah.
But that's the way I grew up. I
Right.
didn't have a phone.
Right. Right.
So the kids now, they don't know how to communicate.
Yeah. It's a
I
lost
want them
art.
to learn because the college coach is going to call them on the phone.
Yeah.
And we have talks about that.
Yeah.
It's sometimes I sit in a room with them. It is the worst thing to listen to. It's hard
Yeah.
because I've never heard pulling teeth like that. It's like,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, if he doesn't say something soon, I don't know. You can't just sit there.
Yeah.
That coach is, you
Right.
just hear the click
Yeah.
of the pen, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you got to answer. So, what do you like
Yeah.
to do? Not a whole lot. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Do you realize you're sitting in front of a college coach? that
And
has
they
ownership
just
of
don't
the
realize that.
scholarship?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There'll be an awkward pause for me, and then the coach will come up with something else, trying to get them to, well, what are you interested in? Well, I like baseball. Oh my gosh, I'm starting to sweat. Please answer.
Because you brought
Yeah.
this recruiter.
Right.
Yeah.
What?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, they don't know how to communicate, so it's important.
Yeah.
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 So the
Yeah.
character is everything.
Right.
It tells people who you are without them knowing you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned, you're passionate about basketball. And there's been some times, where you have, passionately, told a parent, I suppose, hey, stop that. Like, he knows what he's doing. Tell us about some interactions that you've had with parents where you've just had to cut it quick.
Well, it is exactly what you're saying. It's very easy to. I'm very observant. I can sit around and know what's about to happen.
Just by body language.
Partly because I've seen it all, almost, if you will, in those arenas.
Yeah.
And I'm really good at just reading people. But man, you can start to hear the chirping at the umpire, and it starts to get a little bit different. Then the guy, and you get to know the parents, right? You know who's
Yeah.
more of an alpha and who's
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
who's just gonna mouth but not really do it very
Right.
loud, and
Right.
there's certain dads you're like, he's gonna be a problem.
Yeah.
So you start to hear it and hear it, And it doesn't take much. And I'll be coaching from third base. And I do not mind. You can hear me from wherever. And I'll be like, and I don't say names. I'll just, that's enough.
Yeah.
And it stops.
That's it. Yeah.
And then I'll go after the game and go, hey, listen, I don't mind you talking, but it needs to be positive about your kid or the team.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
These umpires are not going to be very good.
Right.
They're just doing it as a secondary source of extra money for the summer.
Right.
Right.
They don't do that for a living.
Yeah.
So they're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
If anything, it helps your son learn how to adjust and get by or get through some of the adversity
Yeah.
of a game.
Yeah.
Because that could be a call later that we don't get because you guys were wearing that guy out.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's become a problem.
Yeah.
So it's not hard.
Let me ask you this, Shane. Do you ever consider who comes or who is allowed to come into your club based off of the experience you've had with their parents?
Yes.
How does that go? How does that
Not
play
good.
out?
But I don't mind. It's happened a few times. It's not a ton, but it usually takes a couple years. And then I call the dad and say, hey, I don't have a spot for your son. And he's like, what do you mean? He's been on this team for 3 years. I said, I know, but you're keeping him from being on this team going forward. And here's the thing. I'm very upfront and it's hard. I don't mind. So at the same time, there's so many places to play.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't care.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Right? They're the client.
Right.
They're spending the money.
Yeah.
It's okay to go play somewhere else.
Yeah.
And usually when I say that, they're like, is that a threat? I'm like, it has nothing to do with, there's just a lot of places to play. This just isn't the place for you right now.
Yeah.
So it has happened
Yeah. Yeah.
because I'm a parent, you know that I'm not sure. My kids don't play sports yet. They've done upwards.
Yeah.
Faith played 7th grade year basketball and just thought that's not it.
Right.
She's extremely artistic
Yeah.
and really, if I showed you some it's like really good animation things.
Yeah.
Like it's great. Like I'm like,
Yeah.
so the joke at our house is, where'd you trace that at?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like
Right.
I was really artistic.
Yeah.
My background and was in graphic design, so
Yeah.
I like that sort of thing. Athletic though, you toss her ball, she's going to catch it. She can throw it to you. She'll do things, but she just doesn't want it. She
Yeah.
don't care.
Right.
Yeah.
TJ is extremely athletic. There's not much he can't do. But I told Sally when they were born, I said they will not play a sport until they ask. So we haven't done anything but upwards.
Yeah.
And he's getting close, I can tell.
Yeah.
But he's also scared of some. We'll do wiffle ball in the backyard with those, not the ones with the holes in them, but like
Yeah.
a blast ball or something.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll hit him every now and then just because it moves.
Yeah.
That's my excuse.
Yeah.
And he'll start kind of whining. I'll say, "Oh, I
Yeah.
said, man, you need to make sure you're okay. Baseball's hurt way worse."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh," so I think he's still kind of in that. Even though he's 12, and probably should be,
Yeah.
just not ready for it yet. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
when it's time, we'll go.
Yeah, and I want to dig deeper into that. You know, Shane, baseball, essentially you've done that since you were 4 years old, and you're competitive and you're passionate. How have you been able to hold back from getting TJ into a sport because he's so athletic? What has been your driving force there?
If I'm gonna, I would love to give you a perfect answer, but if I'm gonna be real honest, it's because I don't want to have to be there to watch.
Because you're a busy man?
No, because I know too much. I don't know it all, but I know what it takes to do, and I know what he would, and I know what's okay and what's not okay on a field. And I don't know that I could sit in the stands and be okay. So God knows what he's doing right now. Because he knows that I could run that relationship the wrong way
Yeah.
because of what I do.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean that I shouldn't have the, what's the word? The compassion to just sit and let him, because he should learn on his own. He should have the ability to make those mistakes
Yeah.
and know that I'm not going to beat him down.
Right.
I already beat him down enough at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For different
Well,
reasons.
I want him to learn how to do it without me. He's gonna want my approval.
Yeah.
And so I've just been like, man, when it's time, it's going to be time for all of us
Yeah.
in my family.
Right.
That's wise.
Yeah.
That's so wise.
And if that time never comes.
Yeah, if it doesn't, it doesn't. Right?
Yeah.
Like I'd be sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think he's going to try 7th grade basketball next year, which he's, he really is good at a lot of things. We live on a green belt. I think that's what it's called. So there's no houses behind us.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've had some trees cut out. So we've got not a wide open area, but
Yeah.
it's easy for us to go back there. And I've got a really like a 30-foot tarp that he hits balls into and throws balls. But he enjoys all sports.
Yeah.
He can catch a football and throw a football as good as I've seen. But he just hasn't wanted to put himself in a position where if I get hit, it might hurt.
Yeah.
And I'm concerned about that.
Yeah.
Really good kid.
Right.
Unbelievable family.
Yeah.
Once again, God knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
I don't deserve it. They're so good.
Yeah.
But he's really emotional kid.
Mm.
He's soft.
Yeah.
And so there's times where I'm just like, ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
So,
but what's great
it's
about your
perfect.
What's great about your answer though is that if let's say it never comes, let's say he never desires to go out on a field and participate in a game. What do you walk away from, or what do you walk away with? And that is a great relationship with your son.
Yeah.
And what a great thing, because so many parents miss out on that because they have these unrealistic expectations of their kids. And they just run it into the ground. They run that relationship into the ground over their expectations for their kids.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
And that was part of the reason of we're not going to do it to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've watched for 27 years.
Right. Is it better?
Families just not so much go a different way,
Yeah.
but the kids just end up quitting because they're just tired of getting in the car and I'm tired of it's always about this. Like I'm never good enough.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just stop it.
Yeah, that's so true.
If I cut it out completely, I don't have that.
Right. Right.
So I can eliminate part of. I feel better as a young man or young woman.
Right.
So it's been sad to watch, but at the same time I've seen families grow.
Right.
Because they're present.
Mm. Yeah.
So and they spend that time right.
Mm-hmm.
So absolutely.
It's been kind of the thing that I would miss for him is the interaction with other people and how to deal with things as a team or or be able to talk to a coach or somebody outside of me.
Right.
And see how he would be able to handle that I think he would miss, not at least having a season or two.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't care if he ever plays. I know how many, listen, I've been doing this 27 years. We've had 645 guys commit to colleges and 50 guys get drafted in that time, which is a lot.
Yeah.
We average 38 guys a year.
Mm.
I have 675 people in the program.
Yeah.
Only 38.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it's 35. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that average has been 38.
Right. Yeah. And so to that point, talking about a parent's expectation, do you have those conversations with parents up front, or do you wait for the parents to come to you?
On their expectations? Well,
in as far as playing after high school,
we have a talk. It's an all around parent meeting.
Okay.
And we give expectations of what we expect from you as a parent for the summer or the spring, and what you can expect from us. That's one of the things that we talk about is, you have to have certain tools. So if you're wanting to do that, play in a sport like this, spend your money the right way. Speed
And what would that
agility,
be?
Speed and agility.
Okay. Yeah.
Strength. Obviously if you can hit and throw, that helps.
Yeah. All right.
But if you can't run or you can't, those kind of things, it won't matter because they're developing.
Right.
So guys that are really good at 12, if they do none of the speed and agility and strength the next 6 years, they'll still be able to hit and throw. But they won't be as quick. The quick twitch things will go away.
Yeah.
They won't. And it's the fastest play in baseball is inside the park.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything else is 2 seconds, 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you know that as a kid growing up
no.
playing baseball? Yeah.
I didn't even know you could go visit colleges.
Yeah, that's right. You mentioned that.
Yeah.
Well.
I mean, I'm 52.
52 years wise.
Listen, I don't even think we had ear flaps on the helmet.
No. Yeah.
Back in the leather football helmets.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I watch. I mean, as a dad, my son is at Arlington High School right now, and watching him grow up and playing sports, I've learned more as a parent, I think, than anything else he's done. And I mean, as for myself as a parent, like what I would do over again, I would do differently. And I think we've talked about it on here, but sports is so good for so many things. And like you said, you miss out on how do you overcome adversity if you're not playing? How do you get along with your teammates? All of those things that are so critical to, life. Things that I learned when I was playing way back then that I still incorporate today. So I think sports is really good. But listening to you talk, it's just reinforces to me that it's not the end all be all. You cannot, as we have said so many times on this podcast, you cannot put your identity in a sport, in athletics, in art. That's not who you are. As a man of faith, do you discuss that at all? Like your faith with your kids, as far as when it comes down to like your identity as who you are?
I don't.
Yeah.
But it's something, like I said, on watching some of these things and being awoke, awakened to some of the things that I wasn't even thinking about. I'd gotten to where, the daily grind is this, and I do that. And I take my kids to school. I pick them up. I was at home with them the first 6 years. My wife went back to work. Yeah. With my job, I didn't have to do lessons till after school was out.
Right.
So I got up every 3 hours. I fed them.
Yeah.
I did all that.
Yeah.
Which is something dads don't. I don't know how moms or stay-at-home dads. I don't know how they do it. I'm not built for that.
Right.
But it's one of those things that it's important that some of the things I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
And it's been interesting the last 2 days. I told my wife, Sally, we went on a walk right before I left to come here. I said, I'm not sure how this is going to go. I said, because I'm not in the same place I was 2 days ago. And I told her, I'm not sure what that means yet, but I'm just telling you, I'm not in the same place. Yeah. So I've got to figure out what direction and how I want my kids to see me.
Yeah. Oh, man, that is so good. I'm so appreciative of that.
Yeah, and that's the whole, the topic is comeback. Like it's never too late to go in a different direction, especially when it comes to our faith in sports. And so, I appreciate you saying that. But just your vulnerability and your humbleness, knowing, that you're a guy that runs a club program and has done for 27 years. It's real. It's real. The struggle is real, no matter how you look at it.
Yeah.
No matter if you're a dad, to 5 kids and one is a professional ballet, and no matter if you're, 27 into years, to leading a club sport, like the struggle is real, and you're not the only one.
Yeah, for sure.
And we don't have it all figured out at all.
No.
At all.
No, which is why, what you're saying, I'm so appreciative of, because what you feel is the same thing that I feel, which is the same thing that many, many people feel that, watch this, or don't watch this. Like this, I think, is normal. And looking at myself now, I'm not the same guy you said 2 days ago. I'm not the same guy that I was either. And I go back 10 years in which I could have changed things back then, but we can't get that time back. And so we're left with, what can we do from here? And we each have different skill sets. But what we do have in common is we've got families that we can set aside everything else and focus on this and say, how do I be better at this? Because that's what's going to matter.
Yeah. What are some things that you're thinking through in these past 2 days?
I want my kids to see me as the leader of the house. And it's not that like I said, I'm an alpha. There's no problem. But I feel like my path and my direction has been wrong. Has not been consistent as what I think it should be now. Only because now I see, I've been extremely hard. I always thought, man, if I do it this way, when it's time for them to go and do what they've got to do, they'll know the boundaries and the rights and the wrongs. You can still do that and do it in a way that's uplifting.
Yeah.
I've beat my kids down.
Yeah.
So it's been, so there's just, I would like to be able to do things different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I'm learning in regards to that, you can set boundaries and I'd probably say that I guess I'm the alpha, I guess, in the relationship. I'm the one that, lays down, the law and the rules. And I think you said Amy is probably the same one in your family.
Yeah.
But as I watch Taya, as I watch her respond to those boundaries and those hard rules, and that discipline, she wants to do it because I said so, but there's no heart change yet, right? Like it's just obedience. And obedience is good. Obedience is a good thing, and we want to teach kids that. But if they don't have the heart change to know why we want them to act a certain way, they're just going to go for the pleasing or to get by because mom or dad said so. And you're really looking for heart change for them to understand, no, like I love you. I don't want you to do this because, of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So I'm right there with you. Yeah. I'm the person that lays down the law in the house, probably a little too hard at times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, Shane, thanks for your honesty.
Yeah.
We appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
You were worried that you wouldn't be good, and you were great. Let me just tell you that.
I appreciate that.
true story. True story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for listening Winning with the Home Team. Thank you so much. If you haven't subscribed yet, you're welcome to do that. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.